Dr. Kim Ji-won sat alone in her lab at midnight. Most of her colleagues had gone home, but she couldn't tear herself away from the strange data coming in from the Jupiter monitoring station. For weeks, the readings had been normal, but tonight something changed. She pushed her glasses up and leaned closer to the screen. The gravitational waves around Jupiter's orbit were forming patterns too regular to be natural. They pulsed in sequences that almost resembled mathematics. Ji-won's heart raced. She had studied gravity for 15 years, and nothing in nature created such precise fluctuations. Her fingers flew across the keyboard as she ran more analyses. The patterns held steady. She reached for the phone and called Director Park Hyunbin. Despite the late hour, he answered on the third ring. "Sir, I need you to come to the lab right away," she said, her voice steady despite her excitement. "I found something you need to see." Park arrived 30 minutes later, his gray hair uncombed and his tie loose. He had led the Seoul Gravitational Research Institute since its founding and had seen countless astronomical phenomena, but never lost his scientist's curiosity. "What am I looking at, Dr. Kim?" he asked, studying the monitor. "Gravitational waves from Jupiter's orbit," she explained, pointing to the regular spikes in the data. "These patterns repeat exactly every 87 seconds. Nature doesn't work that way." Park's eyes widened. "You're suggesting someone or something is manipulating gravity out there," Ji-won finished. "And they're doing it with a level of control we can only dream of." They worked through the night, confirming the readings with other observatories around the world. By morning, research centers in Tokyo, California, and Munich had all detected the same anomaly. The scientific community buzzed with theories. Some suggested a natural explanation not yet understood. Others whispered about what everyone feared to say aloud. This might be evidence of advanced alien technology. 2 days after Ji-won's discovery, as world leaders gathered for emergency meetings, the anomaly moved. The gravitational distortions shifted from Jupiter's orbit toward Earth at impossible speed. Ji-won and Park were in the Institute's main conference room, with government officials when all electronic devices worldwide activated simultaneously. Phones, computers, televisions, and radios all displayed the same message in every language. "People of Earth, we are the Varangian Collective. Your world contains resources vital to our survival. We have studied your civilization and determined you cannot stop us. You have 3 Earth days to prepare for our arrival. Resistance will result in extinction." The room fell silent. Then chaos erupted as officials shouted over each other, trying to make emergency calls that wouldn't connect. Park pulled Ji-won aside. "The president has requested we join the emergency response team. A helicopter will be here in 10 minutes. As they rushed to gather their research, Ji-won stopped suddenly. "The footage," she said. "I need to see the footage." Several observatories had captured images of objects entering the solar system, massive ships that seemed to distort space around them. Ji-won studied these images while they flew to the presidential bunker. "Look at how they move," she said to Park, pointing to her tablet. "They don't use conventional propulsion. See how space bends around them. They're manipulating gravity itself." Park nodded slowly. "So their drives are gravity-based. What else?" "Their speed, their maneuverability." Ji-won swiped through more images. "I think gravity isn't just their means of travel. It's likely their weapon too." The helicopter landed at a military facility outside Seoul. They were escorted underground to a room filled with military and scientific experts from around the world, connected via secure video links. The president of South Korea approached them. "Dr. Kim, Director Park, I'm told you have insights about these aliens." Ji-won took a deep breath. "Mr. President, the Varangians appear to have mastered gravity manipulation. Based on how their ships move, they can likely create localized gravity fields thousands of times stronger than Earth's natural gravity." "What does that mean for us?" a general asked. "It means conventional weapons will be useless," Park said. "If they can control gravity, They can crush our missiles, aircraft, and even our soldiers with increased gravitational force. They could potentially tear apart our cities without firing a single shot. The room grew quiet as the implications sank in. Is there any defense? The president asked. Jiwan hesitated, then spoke carefully. Perhaps, if they use gravity as a weapon, then understanding how it works might help us develop countermeasures. What are you suggesting, Dr. Kim? Asked the defense minister. Their technology is far beyond ours, she admitted, but they still operate within the laws of physics. If we can understand how they manipulate gravitational fields, we might find a way to disrupt them. Park rested his hand on her shoulder. What Dr. Kim is too modest to say is that she's one of the world's leading experts on gravitational theory. If anyone can find a weakness in their technology, it's her. The president nodded. You'll have whatever resources you need. How quickly can you develop something? I don't know, Jiwan said honestly, but we have 3 days before they arrive. We should start now. As they left the meeting, Park pulled Jiwan aside. Do you really think we can find a way to fight them? Jiwan thought about the elegant mathematics behind the gravitational waves, the precise control the aliens demonstrated. They've turned gravity into a weapon against us, she said, but they've also shown us it's possible to control it. If they can weaponize gravity, she looked up at her mentor with determination in her eyes. Then so can we. Park nodded slowly, a grim smile forming on his face. Then perhaps gravity will be our defense as well. The largest meeting room in the underground facility beneath Seoul was filled with tension. Leaders from every continent sat around a massive circular table. Some attended through secure holographic projections, all eyes focused on Dr. Kim Jiwan as she displayed her research on the central screen. The Varangians use gravity as both shield and weapon, Jiwan explained, pointing to simulation models. We've analyzed their attack patterns from yesterday's demonstration over the Pacific. Their ships create gravitational distortions that protect them from our weapons. The UN Secretary General leaned forward. And you believe we can counter this technology? Not just counter it, Jiwan said confidently. We can adapt it. In theory, we can create our own gravitational fields. Military leaders exchanged skeptical glances. The Chinese general spoke first. With respect, Doctor, theory will not save us from extinction. Jiwan nodded. True, but we've already reproduced small-scale gravitational effects in my lab. The physics are sound. We need to scale up. Captain Lee Minho of the Korean Space Force stood up. He was younger than most officers of his rank, promoted quickly due to his brilliant strategic mind and background in physics. How long until we have a working prototype that could defend against their ships? He asked. Jiwan met his gaze. With global resources pooled together, 6 months for a reliable defense system. The room erupted in voices. The American president raised his hand for silence. The Varangians gave us 3 days. They arrive tomorrow. They gave us 3 days to surrender, Jiwan corrected, not to fight. Our initial interactions will buy us more time, but certainly not 6 months. The world leaders debated for hours. Finally, they reached a decision. They would establish Project Anchor, humanity's last hope for creating gravitational defense technology. We'll set up 3 main research bases, the Secretary General announced. Seoul, Geneva, and Nairobi, each focusing on different aspects of the technology, and a testing facility on the moon, where reduced gravity will allow for safer experiments. Captain Lee was assigned to lead the military aspect of the project. I'll assemble a team of pilots and engineers to work directly with Dr. Kim, he said. We need people who can think outside conventional warfare. Within 24 hours, as the Varangian ships entered Earth orbit, Project Anchor was underway. The aliens had sent a simple message: your time is up. Prepare for resource extraction. World leaders responded with careful diplomacy, neither surrendering nor defying the aliens outright. They requested meetings, asked questions about the resources needed, and suggested peaceful alternatives. The Varangians agreed to limited discussions, buying precious days for Project Anchor. Jiwan and Minho worked around the clock at the lunar facility. They assembled a team of 30 scientists and engineers from different countries. The reduced gravity of the moon allowed them to conduct experiments that would be dangerous on Earth. "Our biggest challenge is power," Jiwan explained to Minho one night as they worked in the lunar lab. "Creating gravitational fields requires enormous energy." Minho studied the prototype, a ring-shaped device with superconducting elements. "What if we tap into Earth's natural gravitational field as an amplifier?" Jiwan's eyes widened. "That might actually work. We could use Earth's gravity as a base and manipulate it locally." 3 weeks after the Varangians arrived, Project Anchor conducted its first major test. The team gathered in the reinforced testing chamber on the lunar surface. A small drone hovered at the center of the room. "Activating gravity well at 10% capacity," Jiwan announced, adjusting the controls. The air around the drone seemed to ripple. Then suddenly, the drone collapsed in on itself, crushed by an invisible force. The team cheered. "It works," Minho exclaimed. "We created a localized gravity field strong enough to crush metal." Their celebration was short-lived. The next day's test aimed to create a gravity shield rather than a weapon. The power requirements were much higher. "Initiating gravity shield at 40% capacity," Jiwan called out. The equipment hummed louder. Warning lights flashed across the control panel. Before anyone could shut it down, the gravitational field collapsed inward, then exploded outward. The reinforced walls of the testing chamber cracked. Emergency systems activated, sealing the breach. "Everyone out," Minho shouted, helping an injured engineer to her feet. They evacuated just before the entire section of the lunar facility collapsed. 3 researchers were hospitalized with injuries. The prototype was destroyed. "Back to the drawing board," Jiwan said grimly as they assessed the damage. But time was running out. The Varangians had grown impatient with diplomatic delays. 2 days after the failed test, they launched their first real attack. Military bases in North America were the first targets. Conventional weapons, missiles, jets, tanks, proved useless against the alien ships. Missiles curved away before impact. Fighter jets were forced to the ground by increased gravity. Tanks were crushed like soda cans. Jiwan and Minho watched the footage from the Lunar Command Center, their faces pale. "The physics match our models," Jiwan said quietly. "They're creating localized gravity fields around their ships, about 1,000 times Earth's normal gravity." The attack spread to military installations across the planet. The death toll climbed into the thousands. World leaders desperately sought to reopen negotiations, but the Varangians had stopped responding. Project Anchor teams worked frantically to salvage what they had learned. Engineers in Geneva reported a breakthrough in power management. The Nairobi team developed new materials that could withstand intense gravitational stress. But it wasn't enough. Not yet. Jiwan stared at the monitors showing the devastation across Earth. Columns of smoke rose from military bases on 5 continents. Entire naval fleets sat motionless in harbors, crushed by invisible forces. "We need more time," she whispered as Minho placed a hand on her shoulder. His expression hardened with determination. "Then we'll have to find a way to get it." 2 months after the first Varangian attacks, Dr. Kang Suman sat in her small lab in the underground Seoul facility of Project Anchor. Her specialty was neuroscience, not physics, but Director Park had insisted every scientific discipline might contribute to humanity's defense. Suman stared at her screen, comparing brain scans of researchers who had worked with the gravity prototypes. She noticed something odd in the data and ran the analysis again. The pattern held. She immediately called Dr. Kim Jiwan, who arrived with Captain Lee Minho 20 minutes later. "Look at these neural patterns," Suman said, pointing to colorful brain scans on her monitor. These were taken from researchers who spent the most time near the active gravity devices. Jiwan squinted at the images. "I'm not seeing what you're seeing, Dr. Kang." "Here," Suman highlighted sections of the scans. These researchers show unusual electrical activity in the parietal lobe, the part of the brain that processes spatial awareness. Their brains are responding to the gravitational fields. Minho leaned closer. Is that dangerous? No, Suman replied. It's fascinating. Their brains aren't just detecting the fields, they're synchronizing with them. And look at this comparison. She pulled up another image. This is a scan of captured Varangian biological tissue. Their neural structure is completely different. They couldn't produce these patterns if they tried. Jiwan's eyes widened. Are you suggesting humans have some natural ability to interact with gravitational fields that the Varangians don't? Exactly, Suman said. What if this is why our gravity technology keeps failing? We've been trying to control it with computers when we should be using our brains. They worked through the night, testing Suman's theory. By morning, they had developed a neural interface that could connect a human operator to the gravity generators. We need volunteers to test this, Jiwan told the Project Anchor leadership team. 50 people stepped forward. After initial screening, 12 showed stronger neural responses to gravitational stimuli. Among them was Air Force pilot Choi Yuna, whose results were off the charts. Her brain naturally produces the exact electrical patterns that resonate with gravity fields, Suman explained. I've never seen anything like it. Yuna was a small woman with short black hair and calm eyes. At 28, she had already earned multiple commendations for her flying skills. I don't understand the science, Yuna admitted as technicians attached sensors to her head. I just want to help. The first test was simple. Yuna would try to use the neural interface to create a small gravitational distortion that would move a ball across a table. She sat in a specially designed chair, eyes closed, hands resting on control pads. The room was silent as scientists monitored her brain activity. Nothing happened for several minutes. Then, slowly, the ball began to roll, not across the table, but upward, floating in midair. I can feel it, Yuna whispered, eyes still closed. It's like weight is a thing I can touch and move around. Over the next week, the 12 candidates with neural compatibility trained to control gravitational fields. Some could create small distortions. Others could generate brief gravity shields. But Yuna showed remarkable control. It's like feeling the weight of the world, she explained after successfully deflecting a test projectile, then deciding where that weight should go. I just redirect the pressure. While the neural pilot program developed, Minho proposed a risky mission. We need their technology, he told Jiwan and Director Park. Our understanding of gravity manipulation is too theoretical. If we could study an actual Varangian device, we could advance our work by months. Intelligence reports had identified a damaged Varangian scout ship that had crashed in the mountains of Japan. It was lightly guarded, possibly because the aliens didn't believe humans could use their technology. Minho selected a team of 8 Special Forces soldiers with engineering backgrounds. The mission was approved at the highest level. They departed on a moonless night, using stealth helicopters to approach the crash site. Satellite imagery showed only 3 Varangian guards, tall, 4-armed beings with metallic skin. Minho's team landed 2 kilometers away and approached on foot. They wore prototype gravity disruptors, small devices designed to create confusion in the Varangians' sensory systems. The infiltration went smoothly until they reached the crashed ship. As they began extracting key components from the engine room, an alarm sounded. More Varangians appeared, wielding weapons that warped gravity around them. Take cover, Minho shouted as the air rippled with deadly force. 2 soldiers were caught in a gravity wave that crushed them instantly. Sergeant Han provided covering fire, while Minho and the engineers removed what appeared to be the ship's gravitational core, a spherical device the size of a basketball. As they retreated, another gravity wave hit, killing Sergeant Han. The remaining 5 team members barely escaped with the alien technology. Back at the Seoul facility, Project Anchor engineers worked day and night to integrate the Varangian device with Earth's prototypes. The alien core contained materials unknown to Earth science, but its principles aligned with Juwan's theories. They're using quantum entanglement to manipulate space-time at the subatomic level, Juwan explained to the leadership team. We were on the right track, but their efficiency is 100 times greater. With the alien technology, they completed 6 functional gravity manipulation systems. Each required a neural pilot to operate. They barely finished in time. 3 weeks after the recovery mission, the Varangians launched a major attack on Seoul, apparently in retaliation for the theft of their technology. 30 alien ships descended toward the city. Project Anchor activated its defense system. 6 pilots, including Yuna, took their places in neural interface chambers located throughout the underground facility. From the control center, Juwan and Minho watched monitors showing the approaching ships. "Gravity pilots, you are authorized to engage," Director Park announced. Yuna and the other pilots closed their eyes. Outside, the air around Seoul rippled and distorted. 3 Varangian ships at the front of the formation suddenly stopped, caught in invisible fields that neutralized their propulsion. "It's working," Juwan whispered. The tracked ships struggled against the human-generated gravity fields. The other Varangian vessels fired energy weapons, but Yuna's team created gravity distortions that bent the energy beams away from the city. For 20 minutes, the battle continued. 2 of the human pilots collapsed from the mental strain. Another gravity system overloaded and shut down. But Yuna maintained her fields, even expanding them to help cover the gaps. Finally, the Varangians retreated, taking their trapped ships with them. Seoul had survived with minimal damage. In the control center, exhausted staff cheered. Minho looked at Juwan, a small smile breaking through his usually serious expression. "We can fight back," he said quietly, watching as the alien ships disappeared into the clouds. 6 months after Earth's first successful defense, orbital scanners detected a massive energy signature entering the solar system. The images confirmed everyone's worst fears. The Varangian main fleet had arrived. 500 ships arranged in a perfect spherical formation surrounded Earth, each vessel 10 times larger than the scout ships from the earlier attacks. The formation created a gravitational web that disrupted satellite communications and caused tidal abnormalities in Earth's oceans. The World Defense Council gathered in their new headquarters beneath the Rocky Mountains. The facility had been built after the destruction of the UN headquarters in the previous attacks. "They've been planning this for months," General Torres said, pointing to the holographic display of the alien fleet. "This is their full invasion force." Project Anchor had grown dramatically since its first success. 30 facilities now dotted the globe, each housing gravity amplifiers and neural pilot chambers. 200 humans with the strongest neural compatibility had been trained as gravity pilots. Dr. Kim Juwan stood before the council, her face showing the strain of sleepless nights. "The Varangians have adapted their ships since our last encounter," she explained. "Their gravitational shields are stronger, designed to resist our previous tactics. So our defense won't work?" the Australian representative asked. "I didn't say that," Juwan replied with a thin smile. "We've been adapting too." She activated a new display showing Earth with a web of glowing lines connecting the Project Anchor facilities. "We've linked all 30 gravity amplifiers into a single network," she explained. "They now tap directly into Earth's own gravitational field. Our planet's natural gravity becomes both our power source and our weapon." Captain Lee Minho stepped forward. "Each facility can project gravity corridors up to 500 kilometers into space. With all facilities working together, we can create a defensive shell around the entire planet." "But will it hold against 500 ships?" asked the Russian president. "We don't know," Juwan admitted. "But we have one advantage they don't expect." She nodded to Minho, who continued, "The Varangians still don't understand how we control gravity with our minds. Their technology is purely mechanical. Our neural pilots can adapt in real time, creating unpredictable gravity patterns that their systems can't easily counter." As they spoke, A transmission from the Varangian fleet appeared on all screens. "Humans of Earth," began the message, delivered by a metallic-skinned being with 4 arms. "Your resistance was unexpected but futile. You have proven yourself worthy of study, but not of survival. Surrender now or be eliminated. You have 6 hours to decide." The council debated briefly, but the decision was unanimous. Earth would fight. All around the world, gravity pilots took their positions in neural chambers. Each facility housed between 5 and 10 pilots, with the main control hub in Seoul operated by Choi Yuna. Now 29 years old, Yuna had become Earth's most skilled gravity manipulator. Her ability to feel and redirect gravitational forces had grown beyond what scientists thought possible. She sat in her specialized neural chamber, eyes closed as technicians connected the interface to her neural implants. Around her, 9 other pilots prepared similarly. "Neural network at full capacity," reported Dr. Kang Suman, who now supervised the pilot program. "All 30 facilities report ready status." Director Park spoke through the communication system to all facilities worldwide. "Remember your training. Work together. Feel Earth's gravity as your own strength. May humanity prevail." The 6-hour deadline passed. At dawn, the Varangian attack began. Hundreds of ships descended toward Earth's atmosphere in perfect coordination. They targeted major cities and military installations first, just as they had in previous attacks. But this time, they met Earth's full defense. As the first ships entered the atmosphere over Asia, Yuna opened her mind to the gravitational network. She felt Earth's natural pull, the constant embrace that held everything to the ground, and began to reshape it. Above Seoul, the air shimmered as gravity corridors formed. The lead Varangian ships suddenly found their weapons' fire curving back toward them. 3 ships were destroyed by their own energy beams. Similar scenes played out worldwide. In North America, gravity pilots compressed fields around Varangian ships, trapping them in place. Over Europe, pilots created gravity wells that pulled enemy vessels into each other, causing devastating collisions. The Varangians adjusted quickly. Their ships formed new patterns, coordinating their gravitational shields to resist human attacks. They broke through defenses over several cities. Tokyo was the first to fall, then Cairo, then Los Angeles. Hour by hour, the battle intensified. Yuna remained in her neural chamber for 20 straight hours, her mind stretched across the gravitational web. She felt every ship, every attack, every death as disturbances in Earth's gravitational field. "They're targeting our facilities," Minho reported from the command center. "Nairobi is gone. Geneva under heavy attack." Jiwan studied the battle data. "Their ships are adapting faster than we predicted. They're learning our patterns." "Then we change the patterns," Yuna said through her neural link. "All pilots, follow my lead." She initiated a new tactic. Instead of creating separate gravity fields, the pilots synchronized their efforts to create a single planet-wide gravitational pulse. The effect rippled outward from Earth like an invisible tsunami. When it reached the Varangian fleet, 200 enemy ships temporarily lost power as their gravity drives reset. Earth's weapons, conventional missiles, and newly developed gravity torpedoes found their targets during this brief window of vulnerability. The battle raged for 3 days without pause. Pilots worked in shifts, but Yuna refused to rest, sustained by medical support and sheer determination. By the 3rd day, half of Earth's gravity facilities had been destroyed. Major cities across all continents lay in ruins. The death toll climbed into the millions. But the Varangians had suffered too. Their perfect formation was broken. Half their fleet had been destroyed or damaged beyond repair. On the morning of the 4th day, the remaining Varangian ships suddenly pulled back, retreating to a higher orbit. In the Seoul command bunker, exhausted staff watched in disbelief. "Are they retreating?" someone asked. "Regrouping," Minho corrected, surveying damage reports on his tablet. "They've lost too many ships to continue the current attack." He stood at a shattered window, looking out at what remained of Seoul. Once a vibrant metropolis, now a landscape of rubble and smoke. Similar scenes played out in cities worldwide. Jiwan joined him, her face gray with fatigue. We've lost 2/3 of our major cities, but we've survived. They'll be back, Minho said grimly, and they'll adapt to our tactics. Jiwan stared at the sky where the alien ships had disappeared. Then we'll need something they can't adapt to. She turned toward the lab, a new determination in her steps. 3 weeks after the Varangians retreated, Dr. Kim Jiwan presented her most dangerous idea to the World Defense Council. Her hair had grown gray at the temples during the last year, and deep lines marked her face, but her eyes burned with fierce determination. A micro-singularity, she said, standing before the tired leaders of Earth. In simple terms, a controlled black hole. Murmurs filled the underground chamber. The Ukrainian representative stood. You want to create a black hole. That could destroy Earth itself. Not if properly contained, Jiwan replied. She activated a holographic display showing a sphere contained within layers of energy fields. We can create a gravitational bottle, a containment system using the same technology we developed to shield against Varangian attacks. Director Park nodded his support. The math is sound. It's extremely dangerous, but Dr. Kim has solved the containment problem. Why do we need this? Asked the Canadian Prime Minister. We drove them off. For now, Captain Lee Minho said, stepping forward. But our global defense network is damaged. We've lost most of our gravity facilities. If they return with stronger forces, they will, Jiwan interrupted. Our intelligence suggests they're bringing their supreme command vessel, a ship the size of Earth's moon with a weapon that could crack our planet's crust. When that happens, this will be our only option. After 3 days of debate, the Council approved Project Singularity. Work began immediately at the lunar facility, the only place safe enough to develop such a dangerous weapon. For 2 months, Earth rebuilt while preparing for the final confrontation. The gravity pilot program expanded. 30 small spacecraft were equipped with enhanced gravity drives, designed to be piloted by humans with the strongest neural connections. Choi Yuna trained the pilots personally. Now a major, she had become a symbol of human resistance. The ships are extensions of yourselves, she told her students. Feel gravity like it flows through your blood. Captain Lee Minho was given command of the gravity fleet. Engineers installed the micro-singularity device on his flagship, named Horizon. Earth's warning systems activated on a quiet Tuesday morning. A massive object had entered the outer solar system, moving at impossible speed. The Varangian Supreme Command vessel had arrived. It was enormous, a dark metal sphere surrounded by energy fields, with the remaining Varangian fleet arranged in protective formation around it. As it approached Mars, the planet's orbit visibly shifted from the gravitational disturbance. The final message from the Varangians was brief. Surrender now, or witness the end of your world. Earth's response came not in words, but in action. 30 gravity ships launched from bases around the planet, forming a defensive line in high orbit. Captain Lee commanded from the horizon, with Major Yuna as his second in command. The gravity pilots were linked through their neural interfaces, creating a shared consciousness that could coordinate their movements perfectly. They had trained for this moment for months, but faced a force beyond imagination. From the Lunar Command Center, Jiwan monitored the deployment. Remember, the micro-singularity is unstable. It can only be activated once and will collapse after 80 seconds. You must place it directly inside their planet killer weapons emission point. Understood, Lee replied. We'll get you close enough. The Varangian fleet moved into attack position. Their formation created a gravitational lens that bent light around them, making them shimmer like dark ghosts against the stars. All ships, execute pattern Omega, Lee ordered. The gravity ships split into 3 groups, attacking from different angles. They created complex gravitational corridors that confused the Varangian targeting systems. Several alien vessels collided as their navigation systems failed. The human pilots used every tactic they had developed. They compressed gravity fields to trap enemy ships. They created gravity wells that pulled Varangian vessels into each other. They generated distortion fields that twisted space itself, turning the battlefield into a maze that only human minds could navigate. But the Varangian Supreme Command vessel remained protected behind layers of smaller ships. Nothing could get close enough. "They're powering up the planet killer," Juan reported, her voice tight with fear. "Energy readings are off the charts." At the front of the Supreme Command vessel, a vast opening appeared. Inside, light gathered with blinding intensity. "All ships fall back to secondary positions," Lee ordered. Most of the fleet retreated, but Horizon moved forward, directly toward the charging weapon. "What are you doing?" Juan demanded. "Getting you your shot," Lee replied calmly. "Major Yuna, take the neural controls." Yuna connected to the ship's gravity drive. With her mind, she created a gravitational tunnel, a path through the Varangian defenses straight to the Supreme Command vessel. "We can't maintain this for long," she warned as blood trickled from her nose. The mental strain was enormous. "We won't need long," Lee said. He activated the micro-singularity device. "Dr. Kim, we're in position. Activate the sequence." From the Lunar Command Center, Jiwan typed the final command codes. "Singularity primed. You have 60 seconds to clear the area. All ships withdraw immediately," Lee ordered over the fleet channel. "Captain, we need to go," Yuna urged, seeing the planet killer weapon reaching full charge. Lee looked at her calmly. "The containment field is damaged. Someone needs to manually deploy it." He handed her a small disk. "Emergency transport coordinates. Good luck, Major." Before she could protest, the transport activated, beaming Yuna to a nearby support vessel. Lee guided Horizon directly toward the massive weapon opening. The Varangian ships fired desperately, but the gravitational tunnel held for those crucial seconds. "For Earth," Lee transmitted, his voice clear and strong. The Horizon disappeared in a flash of blinding light as it reached the planet killer's emission point. For a moment, nothing happened. Then, darkness bloomed where the ship had been, a perfect sphere of absolute black. The micro-singularity formed exactly where they had planned, within the energy core of the planet killer weapon. The resulting gravitational collapse created a chain reaction. The Varangian flagship's own power fed into the singularity, tearing the massive vessel apart from within. The black hole grew, consumed the energy core, then collapsed upon itself as designed. Where the Supreme Command vessel had been, only debris remained. The surviving Varangian ships scattered in disarray, retreating beyond lunar orbit. 3 days later, they sent a different message. "You have proven yourselves worthy adversaries. Your species has mastered gravity in ways we did not think possible. We recognize Earth as a sovereign power. Negotiations for peaceful coexistence may begin." 1 month after the battle, Dr. Kim Juwan stood in the ruins of Seoul. Construction crews worked to rebuild the city. Above, the night sky showed stars more clearly than before the war, with the distant lights of Varangian observation vessels visible to the naked eye. Major Yuna joined her, still wearing the neural interface band that had become part of her identity. "Do you think they'll keep their word?" Yuna asked. "I think they have no choice," Juwan replied. "We turned their greatest weapon against them." She looked up at the stars, thinking of Captain Lee and the millions lost in the war. Their sacrifice had not been in vain. "And in doing so," she said softly, "we found our place among the stars."